Hello. So today I have a new video, and the topic is, when is the right age to start having sex? So we're talking about puberty. So puberty can be reached around 12, 13, sometime later for some people. So puberty is when your body starts changing. Now, when your body starts changing, you have certain desire in you because your hormones or your spirit is getting on top of you. That means you're starting to you're starting to go into adulthood. So certain stuff your body start being aware of. But it is never okay for a young person to have sex. How young is too young to have sex? Now, just because your body is telling you that they want it, doesn't mean you have to go to do it. But for a woman, a girl, if they start their period as early as 12 years old, their mother or their father, their parents might be like, okay, go on some birth control method so you don't end up getting pregnant so early. But that happens because people don't really know how to talk to their kids about sex. Or even them, they don't know themselves. Or sometimes the truth just cannot be spoken. No one wants to admit to themselves that they're horny because it's not the right attitude. Not only that, no, you shouldn't be relying on somebody else to give it to you. But your spirit should be pure because we are made in God's image. And as spiritual creature, walking around like being horny or wanting sex shows that you have a lot of weakness. Now, the ideal age, the ideal age you can start having sex is 20 years old. At 20 years old, you are a little bit more aware of yourself, but the age to actually have sex is 30. 30, that's when your mind is ready. Psychologically, you're ready to have sex. So the old idea of mine was, you get with that one person that was meant for you, that person that God took out of your soul, that person that reflects you, the person you are. Not your brother's soul, not your father's soul, not your mama's soul. It's that one person that God separate your body from. So when you see that person, you guys reflect each other. That's the person. When you reach 30 years old, you would get married. Now, once you get married, you would have sex for the first time. The problem with having sex under that age is that physically you may not be ready. You're not gonna be ready because an unripe apple is still an unripe apple. You have to wait for its time. Whether you are aware of yourself, whether you have a big brain, whether you know what you're doing, you need to be ready to have sex. So if you're like younger than 30, there's always going to be some psychological effect that is left afterward when you have sex. Physically, you may not be ready because, number one, no one has that much love. Being together with one person, opening yourself to another person, you are giving out so much out of you. That means your whole vulnerability is open to another person. Your whole weakness is open to that person. And if that person is not at an age that they're ready to take the responsibility of taking care of somebody else, that means being responsible for somebody else, like for that person to be your wife, your husband, then it's going to impact you mentally. So now I'm like, at 16 years old, people be like, 16 years old would be, it's not good, but it's not so bad. That means like you've been like in your spirit for a long time and you want to get your itch scratched. You want to actually experience with sex? Okay, number one, be protected. That means use contraception because you're not ready for a baby and you know how babies are made. So at 16 years old, this is my philosophy. If you want to have sex at 16, do it with somebody who is at least 10 years older than you. Why do I say that? So that person will be about 26, maybe. So you don't have any regret. A person who is way older than you have a little bit more maturity. They have a bit more, they have a little bit more wisdom. So now you can get your itch scratched. I don't know if it's a one-time thing or if it's a two-time thing. Then you get your itch scratched, your experience with it. Then maybe in 4 years, now when you're like 20, you can actually be with a boyfriend. You can have like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. But at 20, you don't have the maturity enough to handle a relationship. So most relationships don't last. Those people move from person to person to person to person. Now there's okay, now at 25 years old, you start having a little bit more self-love. And that's when nobody actually wants to like bring drama into their life or participate in a relationship or being with someone because they're trying to love themselves. And by the time you're 30 years old, you have a little bit more understanding of who you are. Then now you are ready to get married. Still not ready for a baby yet. Psychologically, you'll be ready to have a baby around the age of 34. So that means when you have a baby before the age of 34, it has psychological impact. When you get married before the age of 30, it has psychological impact. If you start having sex so young, it has a lifelong impact. Now there is something called about consent. Like people need to ask people permission to have sex. And I know there is nobody that's gonna talk to you about that, because having sex is like taboo. It's not something that people talk about because everybody is embarrassed, because people are not measuring up to their full soul. So I forgot what I was going to say. So people don't like, okay. So consent, yes, consent. Whenever a girl, usually it's the girl because the girl is weaker, but it goes for boys too. Whenever you find yourself alone with a boy, it can lead up to that. Because in our mind, God didn't want us to be so restricted. That means to follow our rules. But we become aware. Because we become aware, we have to measure up to our soul. So we'll be able to have the freedom that God wanted for everybody. You could have sex with your brother, with your father, with your mother, with your sister. But now it's not the time for that. Because people doesn't have that much love, because people can't reach the godly glory the way that God made them to be in perfection. So whenever you find yourself alone with a boy, whether it's your siblings, that's why kids, when you like two different gender, whether you like 1, 2, 3, 4 years old or whatever age, you shouldn't be sleeping in the same bedroom. You guys shouldn't be taking showers together, or people seeing you in your towels, because the woman is the input, the man is the output. Whenever they find themselves together, they're gonna scratch. And especially if it's somebody that is close to your family, even your uncle or somebody in your family line, it's going to leave you with psychological impact. It's going to make you suicidal. It's not going to make you feel good about yourself. And on top of that, no matter how young you are, even if you were 1 year old, I don't say a baby because a baby can't remember that much. You are raped by somebody in your family, they're not to blame. You are responsible for your own choices. Because at the end of the day, God's spirit doesn't have a baby or a child or a 1-year-old. Everyone is grown. So you cannot blame your mother or your father or your stepmom, your stepdad for raping you. They have their own judgment to God. You have your own judgment to God. So don't put yourself in a vulnerable position and be like, this person raped me. You have to have a strong hold of yourself. So going back to consent. If you find yourself alone with the opposite sex, even now, same sex, because homosexuality is coming around, things are bound to happen. Now the system tolerate a lot of them where grown women are coming out and be like, oh, this grown man raped me. I didn't give consent for that. Now the system lets you go away with it, but that is not the truth that is written on your mind. Just because you are able to bring somebody into judgment for raping you, you are equally as responsible, whether you could have defended yourself or not. Now, I don't know where where my truth lies in consent. Like, you have to ask for sex or not, because that's all it is for me. If you find yourself alone with the person, things bound to happen. Even if it's your own father or your own brother, your sister, your mother, because no one has that much self-control. Now, this is the last part of my video. I'm like 16 years old. I mean, you're still under your parents' responsibility. That's gonna be up to your parents maybe. But at 16 years old, nobody can actually, if you wanna have sex, you're gonna have sex. Okay? So, even if it's with a young person or with an older person, try not to go maybe above 10 years. Even if it's a young person or with an older person, have a contract, a written contract. A written contract that said, I'm going to have sex with you for the next 6 months. Especially for a young person who's not ready for a relationship. Because that's all relationship is. People don't have much. When you become a spiritual person, you are able to love the person like your neighbor. You do small stuff. You take the trash out. You do their laundry. You make a meal. You say, hey, how are you? You text them good night. You text them good morning. So you bring them flowers. You clean the house. So you show a little bit more love. That's when you become a spiritual person. That means you see God first. But if you're not a spiritual person, that's all it is. That's all relationship is. Now, throughout history, men would do a little something for a woman so the woman can give them something back. That's all it is. That's all it is. There is nothing else to it. Nobody's going to be your emotional support. Even though people should have love for their neighbor, that means you should be able to sit, listen to the other person, to another person. But nobody has that much love for each other. That's all relationship is. Mortar, pestilence. So have a contract that said, I'm going to have sex with this person for the next 6 months. Now, hopefully, that person doesn't go to another person, because people can get microbes, bacteria, transfer from one person to one person. So that way you can stay safe. Also, if you don't want a child, you don't want to be conceived, use a protection. But have a contract saying both of you agree before a notary public, a public figure, stamp that contract, write it, stamp it before a notary public, have it notarized to say that I'm gonna have sex with the person for the next 6 months. Start date and date. Now, if they want to continue with you, they don't get bored with you, because as a young person, if you're not ready to settle down, or even you don't have that much maturity, they're going to want to move to the next person. Now, if you don't cause no drama or they're happy with you, they can renew that contract every 6 months until maybe, hopefully, that's going to be your lifelong partner. So have a contract just for having sex. Now, my other thing is, now, you're like, just because you're boyfriend and girlfriend doesn't mean you can't be You can promise each other. You can't wear like a wedding ring. You don't have to wear it on your left finger. You can wear it on your right finger. Have like promise to each other, so that way you're not bouncing around from person to person. Or even if you're having sex so young, have like a friendship ring. The guy have a friendship ring, you have a friendship ring. So that means we gotta stay loyal to each other. I think that's all I have to say. Yeah. So be safe, and it's more than just fun. It leaves you with psychological impact. The world is already as disturbing as it is. You can't blame your mama, you can't blame your papa, you can't blame anyone for the way your life turns out or for the things that happen to you. You have to take responsibility of your own self, and nobody's gonna be your emotional support. That's why they said, I'm not your daddy or I'm not your mommy. That means when you are relying on the person to love you, because your heart is so needy. Your heart shouldn't be needy. You should have a total hold of yourself. All right, my friend, peace.